You can't share it with everybody. You can't expose it, especially the wrong people. You want the right people around your life. They're going to encourage you, build you up, direct you in the right path. You got to tell somebody, and here's why. Because they're going to hold you accountable for it. So I'm going to tell the right person, and they're going to say, hey, what are you doing to get there? I'll have people all the time tell me, they'll say, hey, you know what, Pastor? Or they'll say, Todd, I want to do this. And I'll say, well, what have you done to start?
That's a good question.
I have a dream. Okay? A dream without a reality is a nightmare.
Oof.
If you are not moving your life in the right direction, a dream without a reality is a nightmare. You've got to have a reality attached to it. Because if all you're doing is dreaming, you're going to be out to... Hey, everybody. Welcome to this Toddcast with your host, Todd Bishop. What an honor to have you guys join us today. It's pretty crazy because it's hard to believe. This is episode number 3. Jordan, is this episode number 3?
Yes, sir. Number 3.
Episode number 3. We're releasing a new Toddcast on the 1st and 15th of every month, and we're talking on a wide range of subjects. I mean, we got some good ones coming. Jordan, I think that this one's going to be really good because we're going to talk about how to really go from where you are to where God's designed you to be. It's all about vision. Next session is going to be really good.
Oh, I'm excited.
Like, we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about how to find the person God's designed for you and how to avoid the crazy people.
Come on.
I mean, that's going to be a good one. So glad you guys are with us today. I've been enjoying this. I mean, just to see the reach that we're getting, Jordan, it's actually been pretty cool for what's happening. I'm kind of amazed. I mean, our subscribers are going up. Our views are going up. Engagement, we still need to work on a little bit, but we're glad you guys. We're glad you guys. We don't want you to graduate from the Toddcast.
No.
Because ignore all the others. This is the only real Toddcast. Because we talk about everything out there. And so I'm glad you guys are locked in today. Hey, before we jump into the subject on Vision Day, I want to let you know a couple little resources I have. My first book I wrote was called The Human Right. I actually enjoyed writing this book, and it's the rights that we've been given. One of them I know is the right to be respected. I was raised, you got to earn respect. Well, God's word actually teaches respect is a natural byproduct of birth. And so everybody ought to be respected. So I love that. You can get that. That's on Amazon. You can get that on my website, toddbishop.tv. If you get it on my website, it's a heck of a lot more resource that's put into this program and less that's given to Amazon. Jeff Bezos don't need any more money. I'm just saying. And then my newest book, Prosperity Unleashed. Love that. It's my favorite book I've written. It's a biblical roadmap to a life of blessing. 9 chapters, really, Jordan, of helping people discover how to walk in the blessings of God. And then I wrote another book, 2 years ago, Leadership Unleashed. If you're looking to be a better leader, you definitely want to get that. That's probably in shot somewhere that way, blurred out because I know it's on a bookshelf over here. Make sure you go ahead and get those. I put all that money back into some of the ministry and programming I do to reach college athletes at local universities on Long Island, New York. So I'm glad you guys are with us today. Jordan, what do we got going? What else? Anything else? Anything new and exciting in our lives that we need to talk about?
I mean, no. The podcast in general is doing great. If we can definitely get more comments going on YouTube, that'd be great too.
I got people asking, what does Jordan look like?
Yeah.
He's a goatee wannabe, frosted hair, Hispanic guy who is becoming one of my dear friends. Is one of my dear friends, but he's becoming even closer. And as we're working on this, we get to joke around.
Yes.
We're secluded in a part of the building no one's at. It's just you and me. We're having a conversation with our incredible Toddcasters.
Yes, the Toddcasters.
We need a shirt, Jordan.
I like that.
The Toddcasters.
I'm a Toddcaster.
Design a shirt, and if I like it, I'll send you a $50 gift card.
Nice. Submit.
You heard it. Submit the Toddcasters. Let's see what that shirt looks like. If not, I'll make my own, and I'll pay myself $50 and take my wife out to a very cheap dinner.
Yeah.
Anyway, pretty cool. Hey, one of the cool things, we had a wedding this weekend. Jordan, you were there.
Yes.
And I've never seen this before. I'm sure it's happened. I've never seen a wedding party at the celebration after the ceremony, which I had the real honor to do the ceremony. But I never had never seen them do like free tattoos at a wedding reception. I've just never seen that. And so it was crazy, Jordan, because the guy had 2 sheets of paper and you had to pick one of those designs.
Yeah, I got one too. It's
Jordan,
awesome.
yeah,
so
you
pumped.
did get one.
So
Now,
pumped.
it was interesting. A free tattoo. So it was pretty crazy because I was thinking to myself, I don't want what everybody else has got.
Yeah, no, true.
So I go to the guy. Was it Mark? What was his name? Tattoo guy. Anyway,
I think it was Mark,
really
something like
nice
that.
guy. Go over to him. I say, hey, can you do a custom, real simple? It'll be as simple as anything you got there. And he's like, no, man, I don't do customs. I'm like, what's on the sheet?
That was
I'm
pretty good. That was pretty good.
that was his voice.
Yeah.
And so I end up going there and I said, bypass Marky Mark over here. And I go over and I talk to, the bride and the groom and say, hey, listen, man, can you get your guy to do a custom for it? Very simple. I just want to do a simple crown. 4-point crown. Very simple. And they go back over. Before you know it, I'm in the chair, Jordan. There it is.
Yes.
My simple 4-point crown. Now, here's what's crazy about that tattoo. It's very symbolic to me. It's simple, and it represents a young man that God allowed me to have the privilege to kind of reintroduce to Christ and help him grow in his faith. And unfortunately, he was murdered. And him and his family and I have become close. And so it represents him. His name was Clayton King Beathard. His middle name King, hence the crown. The 4 points represent 1, 2, 3, 4. That was his number on the Long Island Sharks football team. And so it's kind of always to remind me, who's your Clay? Who's the guy out there, Jordan, that you got to remember somebody needs Christ in their life. Someone needs hope. Someone needs to be encouraged. And so now I wanted that since 2019, and I finally got it.
Wow.
And I said, wow, it was simple, because he was kind of a simple, laid-back country guy from Nashville, Tennessee, and it's pretty cool to see, kind of see that, and finally have that. And so they said yes, so I got a tattoo this weekend. So that's tattoo number 5.
Nice.
And I just submitted my 6th design to my tattoo artist. And so I'm waiting to see what he comes back with. Pretty cool. It's going to involve my family crest, our family motto, Pro Deo et Ecclesia, which means for God and the church. That's why we exist. And so pretty excited about that. So that's new. What about you, Jordan? Anything new? You colored your hair. I wish everybody could see it, but we're not showing Jordan.
No.
Jordan will surprise at some point. You'll be like, that's Jordan? Yeah, He's like, what was the guy in Home Improvement that was always like this?
On the fence.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember
Howard
his
or
name.
something like that.
Yeah, something like that. That's gonna be
That's
Jordan.
gonna be me.
You'll only see a piece of him.
That's it.
And it'll be like,
just
what
my
does
eyes.
he really look like?
Yeah.
So just imagining that. So maybe
Just-
we'll have AI create a picture of you.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be kind of fun.
Really
So-
bleached hair.
Anyway, so we've been talking about in the first couple episodes, kind of like an introduction, get to know you. We talked about overdrive in 25, which I enjoyed doing. It's kind of a word that's been on my heart this year. Last episode, it's pretty cool because it was a little different. It was so different, I can't remember the title we gave it. It was about finances.
Yeah,
the number one
one.
secret to wealth.
Yes.
How could I forget the number one secret? If you haven't watched that, you got to track back and watch it. That was an incredible podcast.
Yeah, that was great.
Because what I've done, it took a chapter out of this book, which is ultimately the greatest work of plagiarism in the history of mankind, because all I did is take God's word and put it in print form so I can make sure I get that resource to you. But today I want to drill down, Jordan, and talk to our Toddcasters about vision. Vision. What is vision? Vision is the preferred future of where you want to go. There's a lot of people that have dreams. Dreams are often the atmosphere somewhere, but vision is not just where you want to go, it's how you're going to get there. And so imagine there's a cliff on this side, and there's a chasm in the middle. There's where you are and where you want to be, and the bridge that links the two is your vision. It's your vision for life, your vision for your romantic life, your vision for your finances. You've got to have a vision for every category of your life. Hear me loud and clear, every category. You don't just have a one-dimensional vision. You have to have a vision for every single category of your life, because if you don't, you'll become one-dimensional. And God wants us to be using every gift, talent, and ability to get to where he's designed us to be. And if you have a vision for your spouse, it's interesting. My wife, Jordan, you know this story, but Mary, she made a list when she was in college of all the qualities she wanted in a man. I reached every one of them except for one.
Oh no.
He was rich. That was it. That was the only, no, it wasn't that. But she had it was close. She had a dollar amount in there. I said, she want, because, it's like she had that, but look now, and God's blessed us in ways. And so here's what I know about vision. You may not always get what you want on the front end, but if you're consistent with it, you'll get what you want in the future. And so you got to be committed to that. So Mary's got that $1 million man. I'm just saying. I don't know if that's true. Anyway, so it's the vision is you have to have that preferred picture of your future. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Not just in relationships, in your job, in your finances. Every year, my wife and I, we meet and we get together over breakfast and we set a vision for the year. What we want to do, family vacations, financially, all that stuff. And we put it this year into quadrants. We had personal for us, we had as a spouse, as a family, and as a church, as a ministry, what we want to see happen. And last year, Jordan, it's interesting, we did this. Every one of those goals came to pass.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. We set these goals at the beginning of the year. And so I'm believing one of the things I put down, I was sharing with a few of our staff earlier today, I put down that I want to have a second home in a beautiful beach area. New York, we have beaches, but you step on it, you might get pricked by a syringe. I'm just saying, like in some parts. It's just true, isn't it, Jordan?
It's
like,
true.
You gotta be
It's
careful
not as
with some of the
clean.
beaches here, unless you go out to the Hamptons. But it's like, you have this vision. We put it down. Now, we're praying and believing that that's going to come to life. But if all I do is pray, if all I do is say, God, I have this vision, and I do nothing with it, I will never get to the vision of having that. So what you end up doing is you have where you are. Here's where we are. We have one home, beautiful home on Long Island. We have this vision of we want to have a second home in Florida. What's going to get us there? It's going to be the vision, the action steps to move from where you are to where you want to be. Vision is the bridge that takes you from today to where you're going to be tomorrow. So how do you build your vision? It's got to be the question. I've been doing ministry and leadership for 28 years. It's hard to believe, 1996, 29 years. It'll be 29 years in May. I've been doing leadership and vision from youth pastoring to senior pastoring to even at one point I was an evangelist, Jordan. I would travel around Missouri and I'd preach in these little country churches. Wow. And I'd be like, man, I hope I have enough money for gas, and always had enough money for gas to get the job done. And so it was interesting. I've done that. I've done custodial at a church. I've done graphic design for churches. I've done outreach. I mean, it's so many different things I've had my hand in. Coaching business that I started, which I take no money from. It all goes back into helping me reach students at Long Island University and providing what they need. So it's all these wonderful things that I've been able to have my hand in that's helped me really understand vision, because I've worked with realtors. I've worked with presidents of banks. I've worked with CEOs of major companies. I've worked with investment guys. I've worked with small business owners, pizzerias, and people that create their own products. And it's really interesting to see, Jordan, how that a lot of people have an idea, but they don't ever implement the idea.
Yeah.
Which means there's a shortage between idea and implementation, and it's vision. Vision is how you lay it out to people. And so if I can't sell my vision or give my vision to somebody else, I'm not going to attract anybody to follow along. So there's really, I kind of came up with 4 keys to build your vision, okay? And these are all coming from my viewpoint as a follower of God. And so I'm going to give them to you, and I think there's a lot you could take. The first thing is seek God's will. If you want to have a vision for any category of your life, any area of your life, any arena you're a part of, you are going to have to seek God's will. God, what have you designed me for? What are my gifts, talents, and abilities? What am I good at? What am I proficient at? What am I able to do? And I can tell you, I have seen people over the years that aren't good at something, yet they want to do it because they've seen their friend do it, Jordan. And they're like, wow, if they can do it, I can do it. Here's what I know. There's only one Todd Bishop. And that means I got to do what God's called me to do, and I've got to follow that rhythm to his vision, because if I start diluting myself by following another person's vision for my life, I'll never get where God designed me to be. I'll end up having a crash course with somebody else's destiny for their life. Does that make sense, Jordan?
Yeah, that's good.
You have to seek God's will. And you have to pray that his desire becomes your desire. I never wanted to go into ministry. In fact, I felt called at a young age. I didn't want to do it. Didn't want to do it. I watched in the church my mom really settled into. I watched a church split happen. I seen how they treated their pastor. I was mortified of church. And I was thinking, man, if this is how God's loving people are supposed to be, where they're attacking, hurting, and devouring each other, I don't want any part of that. But here's what I've learned. You cannot run from God's will very long. Eventually, he'll snag you back. Come on, Toddcasters. He'll pull you right in. I almost feel like Hulkamaniacs. Todd, I'm just going to stop here, Jordan. We got to stop. Toddcast, like, can you see me? I am a real American, like for the right. Could you imagine?
That'd be sick.
You know, just rip it like it's Hulkamania.
Yeah,
we got
yeah.
Toddomania. Toddcasters. I don't know. Anyway.
Toddcasters.
Anyway. So you got to seek his will all the way back.
All the way back.
Reel it
in.
So I have found there's some things I've chased after. There's a quote I heard not too long ago. It's not original to our pastors. I think it's an old Chinese proverb, but it says, the man who chases two rabbits catches neither. At some point, you got to say, okay, what am I wired to do? What am I called to do? Jordan, he leads worship. He does a lot with creative at our church. He actually did a great job. He hosted a couple weeks ago in our services, did an outstanding job, but it's not his lane. Worship, musicality, creativity, he's going to shine. If Jordan tries to do what I'm supposed to do, it's just not going to work. If I try and do what Jordan's called to do, it's not going to work, because just like a snowflake, we're all shaped and wired differently to accomplish something great. So I got to say, God, what have you wired me to do? What have you designed me to do? And here's what I know. You were born an original. Do not die a copycat.
That's good.
Let me say it again. You were born an original. Do not die a copycat. Trying to be somebody else. When my wife Mary and I first started the church, which incidentally, we've got to get her on the Toddcast, Jordan.
Trying so
We're
hard.
going to get her on the Toddcast, because you all need to see. And you will say, when you see me next to my beautiful Puerto Rican princess, you will say, miracles still happen. Right? But when Mary and I were first starting in ministry, and we started our church, which was called Point Community Church at that time, and we were launched out of a great church, Bethlehem Assembly of God in Valley Stream, New York. Pastor Steve Malazzo launched us out. And when we launched out, I didn't know what I was, who I was. I would sit in a stool on a Sunday, and I would just have hi, everybody. How are you doing today? It was almost as if it was conversational.
Yeah.
It was almost like I was doing a podcast before podcasts were sexy. Like I would just talk to people and just, hey, everybody, but it wasn't me. Like I'm a very passionate, I call it vein popping preacher. When I get going, every vein's coming out of my neck. I almost sometimes work myself into a headache, a sore throat, because that's who I am. But I tried to deviate from that. And our church really didn't grow in that process. And it wasn't until I said, no, I just got to be me. God, what's your will? What's your design for me? And I had to reconcile, God, I want your will for my life. And so I sought his will. And now, 17 years later, what we've seen our church do, 5 locations.
Amazing.
It's amazing. Thousands of people that call this their home church, and, physical campuses, some we don't own that we meet in. It's incredible. So first thing you got to do is, number 1, seek God's will. Pray for his desire over yours. So important. Number 2, this is huge. You got to submit to God's will. Not only do you have to seek God's will, but you got to submit to it. Now, this is tough because nobody likes to submit. Everybody loves to lead. Everybody wants to be in charge. Everybody wants to be in control. Now, I'll be honest. I'm a control freak. Jordan, is that true? I don't know. He's like, well, he pays me. I don't know if I should say
I don't know if I should.
But you think about this, but I'm not a micromanager. Like, I'm not going to look over your shoulder. No. I'm going to come back to you and say, hey, why wasn't this done? Mm-hmm. I want to be involved. I like to kind of see what's happening. I like when people communicate back to me. I would say, structurally they communicate, because we communicate down, they should communicate up. I like that part of it. Everybody likes that part. But the truth is, Jordan, and here's the harsh reality, Toddcasters. Here's the harsh reality. Not everybody can lead. Not everybody is able to lead. I remember hearing this quote from the first pastor that I worked for in a full-time ministry position, Paul Bartholomew, who's gone to be with the Lord since, but Paul became pastor, a spiritual father to me. Just such a gifted, brilliant guy. I think he had 2 earned doctorates, 3 master's degree. He had all these things. I think it was actually a Texas Ranger. It was all this crazy stuff, or honorary Texas Ranger, something like that. He was a poet. One of the messages I always remember he preached this message called about the tachyon. I was like, what the heck is a tachyon? It's in quantum physics. It's a light that goes faster than the speed of light. It's crazy thing. And he does this whole sermon and draws it back to how Jesus is the light of the world, and he speeds through time and space to meet you where you are. And I'm like, this guy's amazing.
Wow.
Amazing guy. But he had this great quote that now that I told that story, I can't remember what that great quote is. But he had this great quote that he would always share, and it was like, I just can't remember it. That's how good it was. That's the problem with, and here's what you got to know about me. I'm not going to reshoot and cut, edit, do all this. No. We're not going to do any of that stuff because this is raw and real.
Yeah.
So it's not polished and perfected. But, if I remember that quote, I'll share it with you. If not, you're never going to know the quote that Paul Bartholomew said. You're just going to remember the tachyon. Look it up. You will preach a sermon if you're a preacher about that. It's pretty incredible. Well, you got to submit to God's will. And, he used to say this. Here it is. It came back to me.
Nice.
Anything with 2 heads is a monster. Everybody wants to be in charge, but you need someone to be in charge. Not everybody. You have one head coach. You have one senior pastor or lead pastor. You have one whatever it is, and you have one business owner. You have one CEO. There's not 8 million of those because you need one person to be. So everybody likes to be. So be in charge. But the hardest thing to do is to submit. To kind of bend your knee and say, hey, I'm not in charge of this moment. And we have some interesting staff meetings at the church, Jordan, and where I'll share some things. I'll say, hey, what do you all think? Mm-hmm. And I say, hey, no, you add to the list. We did that. At the time we're recording this podcast, we said, hey, what other things need to be added to this so we can add it to this document? People started giving back feedback. Did I say no to any of them? No, I said, hey, great, let's put it in because we're a team. It takes teamwork to make the dream work. So I have to sometimes, even as the leader, submit to someone else's idea. Now, there's a concept. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. Or you have the wrong people in the room with you. You need people that are intelligent in every category so that they can, help mold you, shape you, become a better version of yourself. So I have to submit to God's will. I have to say, God, okay, what is your will for my life? Here's the idea I have where I want to be. Here's where I want to go. What's the vision to get there? What's the vision I have to get there? So you got to seek God's will. Then when God speaks to you, you have to submit to it. And that's scary. When Mary and I first started our church, that was scary. When we bought our first building, that was scary. You know what our mortgage was, Jordan, on our first building that we bought in Hicksville? $170,000.
Oh.
Mortgage payment was $1,200, and I was scared. A few years later, we bought a building that had a $1.7 million mortgage, 10 times the amount. I had no fear.
Wow.
Now we have millions in property debt that we have, and I don't live with that fear. It's just I've submitted that, hey, God, if it's your will, it's your bill. I'm not going to worry about it. Where you guide, you provide. That's what I heard growing up in church. So I kind of live by that. I'm not going to get frustrated, overwhelmed. I'm just going to walk, hey, God, it's your plan, and if you're speaking to our hearts about this, we're just going to kind of roll with it. So if I want to get to where I am, to where God's designed me to be, I need vision to get there. What's it going to take? I got to seek God's will. In other words, how am I designed? How am I hardwired? If you're not a religious person, maybe you take that seek God's will and seek out a vision for your life. Like, what is it you feel like you're called to do? What are you designed to do? And then you got to submit to it. You got to surrender to it. All right, number 3. This is important. You've got to share God's will with the right people. Share God's will with the right. I always reminded of Joseph, man. This guy, like favored son, and then he gets a dream that the wheats of grain are going to bow down, and he's going to be the one standing up. And what does he do? He goes tells his brothers. His brothers get ticked off. Jordan, what did they decide to do? They want to kill him. Mm-hmm. We're going to slice and dice our brother because he had a dream. Now that's a messed up family.
Yes, it is.
Like, I mean, I have issues in my family, but none of us have ever said, hey, here's an idea.
Straight to murder.
Yeah, wow, I don't like your vision. Kill him.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, they get talked out of it by one of the brothers, and they end up, selling them into slavery. That's a better option.
Yeah.
So they sell them into slavery. This is a jacked up family. Sell them into slavery. He told that vision to the wrong people. Sometimes you got to be like Mary, the mother of Jesus, where she heard the angel speak to her, and the Bible says she treasured it in her heart. Sometimes God speaks to you, you got to hold on to that thing in your heart. You can't share it with everybody. You can't expose it, especially the wrong people. You want the right people around your life. They're going to encourage you, build you up, direct you in the right path. You got to tell somebody, and here's why, because they're going to hold you accountable for it. So I'm going to tell the right person, and they're going to say, hey, what are you doing to get there? I'll have people all the time tell me, they'll say, hey, you know what, Pastor, or they'll say, Todd, I want to do this. And I'll say, well, what have you done to start?
That's a good question.
I have a dream. Okay? A dream without a reality is a nightmare.
Oof.
If you are not moving your life in the right direction, a dream without a reality is a nightmare. You've got to have a reality attached to it. Because if all you're doing is dreaming, you're going to be out to, look at the cupcakes and unicorns. And you're going to be doing that, and you're never going to accomplish anything. You're going to be the person that has ideas but no implementation. And those with ideas and no implementation always leads to frustration. And when you have that, you never will find the joy and the peace that you've been looking for in this life. You need to make sure that you're telling the right people. Now, I've been fortunate. I got a great wife. You know Mary very well, Jordan. And she will tell me exactly what she thinks.
Yep.
I think she did today.
Yeah.
She'll say, nope, I don't think, nope. Or she'll say, let me think about that. And then Mary likes this. I'm not this kind of guy. She loves making pros and cons lists. She have her pro list, her con list. Me, I'm like, I'll throw it up to the ceiling. If it sticks, I'm rolling with it, baby. Let's just go. That's probably not the greatest way to lead. Mary kind of evaluates everything, charts everything out. And so first person I'll always tell about everything is Mary. Say, hey, babe, what do you think? What do you think about this? What you're doing? Now, sometimes I mess up and I get ahead of myself. That's just true. And then she'll be like, honey, you didn't even tell me. I'll be like, okay, rewind. I have to go back to her. But you got to share it with the right people. And I've had a time share it with the wrong people. Got to be so cautious. You find the right people that are going to hold you accountable and help you accomplish your dreams and your purpose. And I think so often what happens is people tell the wrong people, and then you know what they say? Oh, you'll never do that. That'll never happen. You're never going to accomplish that. That's impossible for you to do. When you tell the right people, here's what I believe. You don't need yes people around you. You need yes we can people around you. That if you say, hey, I believe this, I've sought God's will, I've submitted to God's will, now I'm going to share God's will, God's agenda, God's purpose that I believe He wants to accomplish with the right people, those people are going to pull the seeds of greatness out of your life. There's so many people God's put in my life that I'll share with, and they'll say, hey, whoa, don't tell anybody yet. Pray it through, work it through, be careful, because you don't want to get the vision ahead of the steps that you have to take to get there. Remember, vision is the bridge that takes you from where you are to where you want to be. You don't want to start walking on that bridge until the bridge has been completed. And that means you got to share it with the right people. Okay, last principle from getting where you are to where you're designed to be is you've got to actually just succeed at doing God's will. When I learned how to drive stick shift way back in the day, it was grind it till you find it. You had to just figure it out. You know what I've learned about our culture today? They don't like to figure it out. They want somebody else to do it for them. They sit there, yeah, just do it for me, do it for me, do it for me, do it. No, at some point you got to figure it out. When I was given my first CD of Photoshop 1.0 back in the day, it was a bootleg. The user code, I don't know if that's what it was called, Jordan. The user code was put in Sharpie marker on it. It was given to me by a friend of mine, Mike Rodriguez.
Oh, wow.
He said, hey, go ahead, use this, man. You're going to love this program. And you know what I did? I figured it out. I bought books on Photoshop. YouTube wasn't as popular back then. I was literally looking everywhere and anywhere. I was going to Barnes and Noble, getting books and saying, okay, I need Photoshop for dummies, or in my case, ultra dummies. And so I ended up like literally, what I do, I learned how to do it myself.
Yeah.
And then I perfected that craft. And then now, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't have the responsibility to do that anymore because we got a team that does it. But what I do, I learned how to succeed even when people didn't think we could. And so for me, I literally ended up making the decision, no matter what it is, no matter how hard it is, no matter how difficult it is, I'm going to work my butt off to accomplish God's will for my life, my ministry, and our church. So you got to give everything you got to do what God's called you to do. You're hardwired for greatness. On the inside of you, God has something he wants to accomplish in your life, for your life, and ultimately through your life. And the only way that's going to happen is when you move from where you are to where you're designed to be. And ultimately, the only way to get there is by having the right vision. How do you do that? You seek God's will. You submit to God's will. You share God's will with the right people, and you succeed at doing God's will. You don't give up. You don't throw in the towel. You don't quit. You grind it till you find it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. Maybe you're listening and watching and you're like, man, you're exhausted. Maybe you know you're doing the right thing, but you feel like throwing in the towel. Let me tell you, do not quit. The Bible says if you don't give up, you'll reap a harvest of right living at the right time. Do not quit, because the dream God's given you is too great to stop 1 second, 1 minute, one door, one opportunity too early. How do you get to where you are, to where God's designed you to be? It's get a vision. And that starts with seeking God's will. How do you do it? You pray, God, show me. Psalm tells us, show me the right path for my life, O Lord. Show me where you want me to dwell. What a prayer. Show me what the next action step is. And then when he shows you, you submit to it, even if it seems crazy. Imagine if God told you right now, quit your job and go on the mission field. Would you do it? If you have a vision of where God wants you to be, you will. If you know that's what he's called you to do. And then you share that with the right people, because they're going to help you develop the tools, the systems, the steps, the accountability, the encouragement to get where God's designed you to be. And then you succeed at it. You work your tail off to do what God's called you to do. And I have this vision statement I've said, Jordan, you've heard me say it 1,000,000 times. At the end of the long days and late nights, did anybody hear about Jesus?
That's good.
That's what I work for.
Yeah.
It could be a long day, it could be a late night. If someone's heard about Jesus, someone's grown in their faith, then you know what? I can put my head on my pillow and say, God, I'm succeeding at doing your will. That's my thing. Maybe your thing is, an executive at a job, or starting a nonprofit, or finding a cure for some disease. If God calls you to do it, he will give you the skills to accomplish it. It's the reality. And so how do you go from where you are to where you want to be? Get a vision. But don't just get any vision. Get a vision from God for your life, and you will never regret one day of your life. Toddcasters, that's all I got. Get a vision and run hard after it. Jordan, what do we got as we close up today?
No, that was
How
great.
was that?
That was awesome.
That's good.
Awesome.
You think our Toddcasters we're gonna make the shirt?
I think
$50 gift card.
we're gonna get some submissions. I'm excited about
$50
that.
gift card for a Toddcasters like Hulkamania shirt.
Let's go.
And I will do it on a Toddcast.
Yes. All
I've
right.
been doing my push-ups, my sit-ups, my dips, my curls,
Okay.
all that stuff. I've been doing, I've been trying to work out regularly. I've been doing the Arnold press for your deltoids. Oh, these bad boys. Oh man, there's like a canyon here, right there. It's coming.
Dang.
Just wait.
You're doing all the ups. I'm doing all the downs. Sit down, lay down. puts on some music.
Double down.
Boogie down. Yeah, double down.
That's John Panetta.
Panetta, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that guy.
Oh, shout out.
Watch it sometimes. He says some things. Hey man, thanks for joining us today. Hey, remember, do this. Subscribe, number one, right?
Yes,
Subscribe. You got to subscribe. Send us any feedback, todd@toddbishop.tv. Comment below. That actually helps the algorithm move. Like it, share it, send it to somebody else that you know might be struggling with their vision. And then don't forget, watch our other Toddcasts, because every one of those drives us, because we want to put this resource, this tool in the right hands. Remember, the Toddcast. Ignore all the others, because we know God's got the best for you.